If you're ready to harness the power of your communications data, blast off with Nihilist today.
Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to Coding with Nihilist. In this live stream, we talk about APIs, we talk about programming languages, we talk about building with Nihilist, and as well, we include other stuff going on in tech. My name's Ram.
Hey, I'm Blag.
How you been doing, Blag?
I've been doing fine, thank you. Weather seems to be kind of nicer, so it was sunny today. What about you?
Yep, looking forward to nicer weather for sure, especially for the weekend. As long as we get good weather in the weekend.
Totally.
So I don't know if you hear that in the background. I have a bit of a blender background noise right now that I'm trying to avoid, but let me know if it gets too loud.
Yeah, it's all right. Cinco de Mayo, so people celebrate.
People are celebrating a little early over here, but I'm doing a live stream, right? This is fun too. So let's jump in. Today we're going to talk about how to create virtual calendars.
Cool.
So I know we've talked about virtual calendars in the past, but I've started working on a bigger project and it requires using a virtual calendar. So I wanted to dig in a bit more to understand, okay, what are virtual calendars? Why do we need them? Let's go through an example of how we can create a virtual calendar and really show that a virtual calendar is very similar to using an actual calendar. There isn't much of a difference when you're building out any functionality, especially when you're using it with Nihilist. The next part is what are virtual calendars? And a good way to think of this is, so normally when we think of a calendar, we think of an individual having a calendar, almost like a one-to-one association where an individual has a calendar, and that's how they manage their time, they manage their appointments, their meetings, and their notifications to other people. What a virtual calendar is, it's very similar, but it doesn't necessarily have to be associated with the person. I like to think of it as a source associating it with a resource. It could be time, or it could be even like machinery, for example. So I know, Blog, you've done a blog post about this. Did you want to talk a bit more?
Sure. So I actually did a live stream on how to use Ruby to create a reservation system for a gym. So you want to reserve a gym class, for example, and then what you do is you can have a gym or a gym class to have a real calendar, right? So you create a virtual, and then you can manage it and do exactly the same thing you can do with a regular calendar.
Yeah, so a good example of why virtual calendars are important, or why use virtual calendars, is it really helps you manage resources. So in Blog's case, it's a gym reservation system, and you can think of each resource of having its own calendar, which is very powerful because that resource you can manage the availability of resources individually.
Yep.
Another example is when you have use cases where you have users that want to share their availability, but they don't actually want to connect their account and show their personal lives. So a good example of this is if you have a healthcare clinic and they have healthcare providers that want to share their availability with patients, but they actually don't want to sync their full calendar, show all their appointments. They just want to have their availability shown to the different users so they can go ahead and book with those healthcare providers.
Yep.
So virtual calendar gives you a bit of separation between your users in terms of what they're sharing personally versus professionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're super useful.
So let's jump in and take a look at how we can create virtual calendars. So we're going to do this in the terminal. So I'll just go through the walkthrough of how to do this using the CLI.
Cool.
Let me share my screen.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Cool.
So there are a few steps that we need to do. So I'm just in the CLI. I'm just using Warp. It's a CLI terminal, terminal CLI tool. So there are a few things that we need to do to be able to create a virtual calendar with Nihilist. And the first step is that we actually need to create an account. And the reason for that is we want to associate a user with a calendar. And this user would be represented as a Nihilist user because we're just creating a user and associating it with a specific account.
Yes.
So here is an example. I'm just going to share it here. Let me see if that's big enough on the screen. I think that's good enough. And what I'm doing is I'm using a client ID, which is my application ID with Nihilist,
Mhm.
and the provider's Nihilist. So in this case, we're going to be creating a Nihilist user, and the scopes for that user are going to be calendar. So scopes normally, when we look at Google or Microsoft, scopes would be all the different permissions that we want to share with them. And in this case, as email, the one thing to keep in mind is that the email actually represents a unique identifier for the user.
Mhm.
So normally, I would recommend to use an identification that you'd want to share within your application. So a good example of that is if we used a UUID, we can actually pass in a UUID here as well. So I'll do that now. So this is just a unique way to identify the user that you would want to share across all your different integrations. I know the field says email, but it's actually a unique identifier that needs to go in this field.
Yeah. So don't ever pass your email or personal email there.
Yeah, exactly. And what we should get back from doing this is we're actually going to get a code, and that code we need to pass back. So we're actually going through an authentication flow to authenticate the user. And once we authenticate the user, we'll actually get back a token to use.
Mhm.
So let me go ahead and do the next call. So this is all a part of the user creation and authentication flow. So I've gone ahead and I've passed the client ID and the client secret. This is for my application, my Nihilist application, and as well the code.
Mhm.
So passing this in, I will get an access token. And again, this is not information you generally want to share publicly. I'm just doing it for the live stream.
Yeah.
And using this access token, you can go ahead and create the virtual calendar for that user. So let's go ahead and create the virtual calendar. So I was going to take the access token,
Mhm.
and we're going to go ahead and create a virtual calendar. So here what I'm passing in is just a name of the calendar, a description, a location, and a time zone. So just basic information to get this going. We're just going to pass all this information in. We're going to pass in the access token, and this should create an actual calendar for us to use. So this is an actual virtual calendar that we've created for the user. And let me just check. Just give me one sec.
Mhm.
There we go. So I just want to share what happens in the actual Nihilist dashboard so we could follow along there as well.
Mhm.
So
Totally.
let me just take this over here. And so I'm just going to share the screen. Here you can see that I've actually created that user here.
Yep.
So this is the user ID
Mhm.
that I passed in, and the email field will be the unique user ID that you need. And it says that I'm creating a virtual calendar. So that's the account type. So you can go ahead and verify this using the actual Nihilist dashboard.
Cool.
So now that we actually have a calendar, we can actually use it like a normal calendar. So virtual calendar is a calendar. There isn't any real difference. It's just how it's set up is slightly different from a normal calendar.
Mhm. Yeah, but otherwise it's going to interact exactly the same. You can create events, delete events, update events, and everything.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and try creating an event. So I'm going to go ahead and create an event using the calendar. Just one thing I want to call out, the ID here is the calendar ID. So
Mhm.
this ID is the calendar ID that we're going to use. And we're going to pass this in to create events. So I'm going to do this using a curl command. So here what I'm doing is I'm actually creating the event. So I'm posting, I'm passing in my access token, I have a title. So you can pass in all the different calendar details or arguments. So we have a title, we have a start and end time, we have a location, we have a calendar ID, which is what we created in the past curl command. And then we can just add participants.
Cool.
So here it says invalid request error. Let me take a look at why that's happening. Let's see. One one thing I forgot was the access token needs to be updated as well
Mhm.
over here. So let me go ahead and do that as well. So I'm just going to grab the access token. We're going to repeat the command. I'm just going to update the access token. So what I had to do was update the access token and as well provide a calendar ID. So let's try making this call. And what we're doing is we're creating an actual calendar event.
And go. There we go.
Yeah. So what happened now is that we created a calendar event, and now we can go ahead and do other things. Like if we wanted to send invites, we can do that by sending out emails. And as well, we can start looking at all the different events that we have for this specific calendar. So let's go ahead and just grab the different events as well.
Sure.
So I think it will look something like this. Let me see. So we're just going to pass in the token,
Mhm.
and as well, we're just going to grab all the events for that user. So here what I've done is I'm just making a GET request for events. I'm passing in the URL/events, and then I'm passing in the token, the access token.
Mhm.
There you go. And this is going to provide all the different events for that specific calendar. So again, like I've mentioned in the past, a virtual calendar is a calendar. It gives you more functionality for actually building different types of use cases with your users.
Mhm. Yeah, the good thing is that you can create multiple virtual calendars. So if you have like different classes, you can create one virtual calendar for each of the classes. So it's pretty versatile.
Yeah. Just one thing I want to mention, if you want to learn more, go ahead and check out our developer.nihilist.com. We go through and talk about all the different types of calendar configurations. We talk about scheduler, how to create different calendars using our APIs, and as well, we go more in depth with our virtual calendar.
Mhm.
And as well, we have Nihilist SDKs to go ahead and create virtual calendars. So you can do this with Ruby, Node, Python, and Java. Blog, did you want to take the next one?
Sure. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Just click on the button subscribe, click on the little bell to get notifications where we are doing a live stream. The more people we got following the channel, the more we can create more content for Coding with Silas. So a little bit of support would be appreciated.
Yeah, really, really appreciate it. Go ahead, like and subscribe, follow, provide feedback. We'd love to hear you, and we'll definitely meet you wherever you are on the interwebs.
Totally.
And as well, just a quick reminder, live streams every Wednesday and Friday.
Mhm.
So we do it in the afternoon on the Eastern coast, so 2 p.m. and 11 a.m. on the Pacific coast. So either if you're grabbing your lunch or grabbing your coffee, come and watch our live stream.
Mhm. Yep, that's nice. Uh, don't forget to check our blog, nilas.com/blog, where we publish all our blog posts. Then it's time for what's coming next, and that's me on Wednesday.
Yep.
So
What is coming next?
yeah, we're gonna talk about Streamlit and how to build an email dashboard. As you remember, I did something similar, but using Shiny for Python. This time I'm gonna use Streamlit, and you're gonna see kind of like the difference, and you're gonna see that Streamlit is just amazing Python package to create dashboards.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. I love seeing all the email dashboards we have. There's so many ways you can visualize communication data. So I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to this.
Yep, cool, awesome.
That's all for today. Short and sweet. Hope everyone found this useful. Go ahead and follow us on the interwebs. We're at Nihilus, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Yep, thanks, Ram. Always great to see you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.